Hello everyone, Power Query Challenge. Today our challenge is to look at the transactional table and focus on only those transactions with brand A and B in the same transaction. I repeat, only brand A and B in the same transactions. So what does mean? Let's take a look at this transactional table. Of course, this is a simplified version. So column A, we have the transaction ID. Column B, we have the item ID, and then column C is the brand of the product. What we want to see is we want to only focus on the transactions with brand A and B. Brand A and B. So the first transaction, T001, is not qualified because this transaction, we have the brand A, the brand D, and the brand E. This is not what we want. You may wonder, we can select the brand and do a filter A and B only. Sorry, this doesn't work because in this way we filter the brand A or B. So let's, for example, take this T004 and T006 as an example. The transaction T004 with only one item sold, which is item A. In the transaction 6, we have A, B, and E. We have three brands here. So when we do the auto filtering in this way, it filters A or B. That means the transaction 4 and transaction 6 will stay here, but they are not qualified. They are not what we want to see. We just want to see brand A and B. So let's do it with Power Query. Let's put it into Power Query. Select anywhere here. Go to the Data tab and then from Table or Range. In the Power Query editor, rename this. I would like to rename it as space. Then I can define the column, the data column. So the first three columns should be text, and the last one it should be a whole number. When it is done, so this will be my base query with all the transactional details. Now I'm going to duplicate. In this new query, I will call it my result because it will be my result query. So the first step I want to do is I want to group all the transactions into a single row of record. Select the column here, transform, group by. The operation here, please select all rows because I want to see all the records for each transaction. As a result, I have a table with only one transaction per row. That means I have only one transaction per record. But on the next column, I will see all the details of that transaction in the table. Let's have a look. Okay. So we can see that for the first transaction, we have a table like this. This is all the transactional details. The brands included are A, D, and E. For the second transaction, this is what we want. This is brand A and brand B only. And then the third transaction with only brand A, we don't want it. So the next question is how we can get that information for the brand. We can click on this. Instead of expanding the record, please select aggregate. And then for the moment, I want to see the brand. This is not exactly what we want, but let's select this for the moment. Uncheck this box. Okay. So this is the result, which is not really helpful to us. It is not answering our questions. But let's take a look at the formula that is auto-generated. So it is giving me a list.count. That's why actually it returned the count of the record for each transaction, which is not what I want. So what I'm going to do here is I want to modify this function. So let's see, do we have a distant list? Wow, yes we do. We have a list.distant. Let's select this and then check. Okay, and see what we have. So for each transaction right now, I have a list of record. So this is the list of the brand, ADE. Wonderful. This is the list of the brand, AB. Cool. However, this list is not in any order. It could be in any order from the original dataset. So what I want to do is I want to make sure the brands here are sorted in ascending order or descending order. The reason for doing this is from the result, I may have A and B or I may have B and A. They are identical to me. So I want to make it more simple. So I'm going to make one more step here. Going to add a custom column. So let's call it sorted brands. What I want is to sort the list. Oh, we have list dot sort. Apparently, it is the function that I need. Open parenthesis and then tell which column I want to do this operation or do this function, which is kind of brand, because under this column I have the list that I want to sort. Okay, there we go. We have basically exactly the same result. Here we have DEA, but here we have the list sorted ADE. Cool. The next step is simple. I just need to expand this, extract values. I can select a delimiter for concatenating the list of values. So let's use comma as a delimiter. Okay, there we go. Then the next step is super easy. What I want is I just want to focus on the transaction with the brand A and B. So on this column, I open the filter. I filter to only A and B. Okay. Then I don't need the rest. I care only the transaction, the 12th transaction here. So I'm going to right click, remove other columns. The next step is I want to bring back all the transactional details. So I need the information from the base. Now let's go back to result. Home, merge query. Based on transactional ID, I want to merge it with the base query based on transaction ID. All good. So now I bring back all the information in the table. Next step is simple. Expand this. Select all the columns except transactional ID because I have it already. Okay, there we go. Super easy. We can load the result. Close and load. By default, I set it to load it to the connection only. I can bring it back on my worksheet. So let me bring it back by right click here, load to table. Let me put it here. Okay. Here we go. This is the result with the transactions that we want to look at. A list of transactions that carry both brand A and brand B in the transaction. As always, let's test the result to make sure it is returning what we want. So now the result, we do not have the transaction T001 because this is a transaction with brand A, D, and E. What if I change it? I have brand B, B, and A. So now transaction 001 should be qualified because it contains only brand A and brand B. Let me refresh the result and see. There we go. We have the transaction details for transaction 001. It is included in the result. Now I have another challenge. What if I want to change? I want to focus on the transactions for brand A and C. It is easy. You just need to go back to the query and then make sure go to the right step here. This is the filter rules. This is where we determine what brands we want to look at. And we can change this step. This time I want to look at A and C. And then I just select A and C. So I will have the result. and then close that node. We will have the result returned. However, doing this is quite trouble, involve a lot of steps. What if we connect our user to input? Okay, say for example, this is our input parameters. We can ask the user to input the brands that he or she wants to look at before running the query. So this is the idea. We ask the user to input here directly. So I have to put this into an Excel table, Control T. My table has headers. Okay, so next we name this as the brands. Okay, just call it brands. So I start with 2 brands, but we can add more. We can have 3 or 4 because this is an Excel table. When we have more brands to input, the table expands automatically. But right now, just focus on 2 brands, start with 2 brands. And I need to bring it to Power Query. Now we have the query called brands. I want to convert this into list. Convert to list. Let me go back to the result query. Basically, we need to change something starting from here. This is the list sorted, if you remember. So we have the list of the brand already for each transaction. So I want to delete everything. Delete here, starting from these steps. Delete everything until end. Let me show you what can we do. So from these steps, we want to filter directly the list that contained A, B, or wherever it is inputted as the brands here. This is our user input. In order to do that, we want to filter the list directly from this stage. But here I do not see the filter options. I do not see the filter label. So what I'm going to do is, indeed, I'm going to filter on trans ID to borrow the auto-generated formula that will be coming through. So when I try to filter transaction ID equal to T001, this is the formula I've got. So right now I just need to modify this formula. Instead of filtering transaction ID, I'm going to filter by the column sorted brands. So I type sorted brands. Be careful of the spelling, it is case sensitive. Instead of how cooked it is, so what I'm going to type here is brands. What is this? This is the brands we have here as the parameter. Enter. There we go. We have the list. We have the list here. Wow, wonderful. Now we just can merge the queries to bring back all the transactional details for the filter list, for the filter transaction. So let's do it. Right click, remove other columns, and then merge. This time I want to merge with, again, base query by transaction ID. Okay, and then I will do exactly the same. Get all the columns except transaction ID. Okay, close a node. There we go. Let's look at the result. Now we have A, B. What if I change the parameter to try A and D? Right click, refresh. There we go. Let's do more testing. How about A, B, and C? Right click, refresh. Awesome. So we have 2 transactions with A, B, and C. We can further to do it by extending the parameter list. Now we have A, B, C, D. Right click, refresh. Wow, we have 1 transaction with A, B, C, and D. This is super. That's why I love Power Query so much.